So we begin every Rotary meeting with the ringing of the bell. And for those of my Rotarian family who are here, all of them should pretty much Pavlovian snap to attention and know what that means. For the rest of you, it's probably pretty startling, but the good news is we've got it out of the way. We'll do it one more time, but that's later. So with that behind us, good evening and welcome to the 29th Annual Rotary Community Toast and Benefit Banquet. I'm Matt Millies, the current president of the Rotary Club of New Albany, where we have been connecting to our community and the world for over 100 years. I'd like to start every one of my meetings with today is a great day to be a Rotarian. And today is no different, as we are thrilled that you could participate in this evening's events as we shine a spotlight on a remarkable community leader who has truly, like our other honorees, put our Rotary motto of service above self to work. We also have some very special guests with us here this evening, our Interact Club, which we sponsor through Floyd Central High School. If you wouldn't mind standing and being recognized. This group of leaders helps introduce Rotary to young people through their own service projects that they do for their fellow student body community. Thank you for joining us this evening. The Rotary Club of New Albany serves locally and around the world as each Rotarian strives to improve our community and promote peace and goodwill. If you are interested in our Rotary Club or membership, there is a QR code on the table tent in front of you that will link you to our website. For us, it begins and ends with service. And that's why tonight is so exciting for us to honor one of our very own, Irv Stumler. Irv is a man who sets a very high bar as an example of service to the community. Thank you for being a part of this special evening. Your support will be felt locally and around the world as Rotary works to make the world a better place for everyone. So, right now I'm supposed to introduce our Master of Ceremonies, and right now he's sitting over here to my right thinking, oh my gosh, what is Matt doing? I told him to stick to my script. But since tonight is all about Irv, I felt like telling a story. It's a short story. So earlier this summer, there was a group of us out having a beverage at a local establishment. And we were sitting there, and I turned to my wife, Sarah, and I said, do you realize that we're having drinks with a celebrity? Irv was just named as our toast honoree. Sarah got so excited. She wanted Irv's autograph. She wanted pictures with him. It was very crazy and very chaotic. And I looked at Irv and I said, so are you ready for this? And Irv shook his head and in total Irv style said, no, I really don't much like the attention. So a lot of you don't know me, but my brain immediately went to action, and I said, Irv, I've got you, okay? It's a true story. I said, I'll get you through the night. Every time I have a drink, I'm going to get you a drink. And we're just going to sail through the night, right? Piece of cake. True story, maybe other than the embellishment of my wife who didn't overreact. But I told them, I said, we're going to get through this. So now we find ourselves in a little situation. Number one, Irv and I are going to both need a ride home tonight because neither one of our wives are going to allow us to go home with them. And number two, we're going to need some help with a bar tab. So anybody who's interested in helping us out, please let me know. I'll be standing in the back by the bar. Okay. So to introduce our MC for the evening, Jerry Finn. Jerry is retired after 19 years as the executive director of Caesars Foundation of Floyd County. Jerry has served on several nonprofit boards and has been involved in many charitable causes, including the Friends of the Town Clock Church, along with Irv. Jerry is the father to 4 and grandfather to 7. So by now, you can figure out that Jerry's really not retired. Jerry and his wife Jill live here in Starlight in his family's ancestral 1800s homes. One of Jerry's biggest honors and favors is being a Toast honoree, along with many other great people in our community, and now like Irv. Please help me welcome Jerry Finn.
Well, Matt and Irv, you're lucky I live just down the road and got extra bedrooms if you need a place to stay. So, and welcome, and what an honor it is to be here tonight to celebrate Irv and all that he has done for our community. When he asked me to be MC, my first thought was, oh gosh, not again. But I thought, well, Irv and I have a number of things in common. We both grew up in Starlight. Well, actually, we have a lot of things in common. We both went to Flagey High School. We both have a big family. But the 9 of us in our family, the 9 children in our family, paled in comparison to the family of the Stumlers, who had 16. So I would like to introduce members of the Stumler family. First of all, I want to introduce, you'll meet Irv plenty tonight, but Pat Lee Stumler, Irv's wife there. Irv's children, Maria Stumler, and her partner, Daniel Peroni. Where is, right there, okay, good. Eric and Lisa Stumler. Pat's children, Steve and Debbie Least, Beth and Cecil Sexton. Now, for grandchildren, we have Nick Gunnell. Is Nick, is he here? Okay. Oh, that's right, he was gonna run out. Alonson. Okay. Alanson. I knew I was going to mess it up. Cole and his friend Julia and Clayton Stumler. And then siblings, we have sister Geneva Stumler, Melvin, Bernice. I see Bernice. Oh, okay. Bernice, Helen, and Anthony. Nieces and nephews. How many of you here are nieces and nephews of the Stumlers? Okay. How many of you here are related to a Stumler in any way, shape, or form? Yeah, like I figured, about half the room. So, we're so excited to be able to do this, and as you probably already know, this is one of the ways Rotary raises funds for the service projects they do, and the honoree gets to choose their charity of choice, and proceeds go to that as well. And I'm really excited that the Town Clock Church is a part of that, but we could not do it without our presenting sponsors and gold sponsors. So I would like to recognize Insulated Roofing Contractors for their generous contribution this evening, and Paget Inc. for their generous donation as well. Throughout the program, I'm going to read through the list of gold sponsors. You will see them in your program there, not only gold, but presenting sponsors as well. So I'd like to take just the first group and go through them real quickly. Able Construction Company, Baptist Health Floyd, Caesars Foundation of Floyd County, DM Masonry Incorporated, Dr. Black Eye Associates, Dr. Dan and Stephanie Eichenberger, and Floyd Memorial Foundation. And I'll do the rest of them later on. But as we always began our Rotary meetings with an invocation and a pledge, Irv has asked Father Bill Ernst to lead us in the invocation. Father Bill was born in Louisville, and his family moved to Indiana when he was 8 years old. He grew up on a small farm in Floyd County. He received his seminary training at St. Meinrad School of Theology and was ordained a priest in May of 1964. He served in several parishes in Indiana, and his last assignment was St. Mary's, New Albany, where I'm sure keeping Irv in line was quite a job. So He was pastor there for 19 years, retiring in 2008, just before Hurricane Ike blew the steeple askew on the church there at St. Mary's. So if you would, please welcome Father Bill Ernst, who will be leading our invocation.
O God, we recognize you as the source of all that is good. You have called us to be stewards of your creation. May we always be worthy stewards. We thank you for the many blessings you have given to us as a nation, as a community, and as individuals. We pray that in our world, peace may be found, especially in the Mideast and Ukraine. We ask your continued blessings on the Rotary Club of New Albany and their works of charity to improve our community. We do not know what challenges lie ahead, but with you on our side, we are confident that we will be able to meet them. Bless all those who have contributed to the work of the Rotary Club. This evening, we honor one member, Irv Stumler, for his contributions. We are thankful for what he has contributed. We realize that the work of any organization involves the contribution of many members. We are grateful for all who have contributed to the success of the Rotary Club of New Albany. We pray that this club will continue to be a vital part of our community. And we pray in your name, O God. Amen.
Now, if you're able, please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with justice for all. Thank you. Please be seated. It's time for our dinner, and just to let you know, the Huber staff will come around to the tables and let you know the buffet lines are back this direction, but just please be seated and enjoy each other's company until the staff comes and tells your table it's time to head out, okay? Thank you. And now for the part you've been waiting for, the presenters. Our first one is Irv Stumler, Irv's second child. He has an older sister, Maria. Eric and his wife, Lisa, have 3 adult children, Alanson, Cole, and Clayton. Eric is a graduate of U of L and works as a with a national management consulting firm. So please welcome Irv Stumler to share a little bit about his experience with his famous father.
Okay, so when I was first called about this, I thought, wow, this is really interesting. I'm going to have the very unique opportunity as a son to come up and speak in front of a room full of people that are very well dressed and say a bunch of good things about him. Dad, let's see what happens. Three things came to mind in growing up that Dad taught me. Persistence, perseverance, and heart. Dad will, I didn't expect this, Dad will break down any barrier. When he sets his mind to something, whether it be in business or volunteerism, he will break down anything in his way, If he believes in it, he will break it down. Perseverance, because he'll never give up. He will not give up. If he believes in something, he's never going to stop. He's almost like time itself. It'll never stop. He's chosen to use these gifts that he's taught me with his heart. He could have used it, for whatever selfish things, right? Making more money, could have hurt people with it. You can make all kind of choices in life, but his heart led him to why I'm standing here today, which is he's done wonderful things in his community throughout his life. Maria and I remember, selling peanuts at the Pegasus Parade and painting the Louisville Deaf Oral School when we were kids. And just he'll bring a team together no matter what the situation. He brings a team together to solve whatever these problems are. So you'll get a call one day, and he'll say, let's go to lunch. If he's driving, you better have blocked out the rest of the day. Because here's what's going to happen. You're going to go to lunch, and he's going to say, hey, I got this thing. We got to go over here, and we got to meet this guy. Okay? This person has no idea we're coming. No idea what's about to happen. But you know what? He's going to say, or she, they're going to say yes. Because he will not stop. Okay? So we've learned this all along the way, and my kids call them OPA adventures. Whenever you go to lunch with OPA, you're going to have an adventure. You don't know what's going to happen, but stuff's going to get done right now. Growing up, we had a vacation that I think I probably tell this every Thanksgiving and Christmas. We were on a vacation, and so, again, Dad is driving, right? And so we're going to Texas. And so we go through Memphis. We're having a great time in Memphis. And we go to Graceland and Mud Island. And we all get back in the car. I don't know. I don't even know if I was a teenager yet. So what I'm about to tell you is the only way that I have ever seen anybody stop Dad when he decided that he wanted something. The only way. I've never been able to deploy it and use it. Maybe you can, but here it is. So we leave Memphis, and we're driving along on our way to Dallas, and we're driving, and Mom's looking at the triptych. She looks at the mile marker. She looks at the triptych. She's like, what is going on? Irvin. Uh-oh. Irvin, what are you doing? We're 50 miles too far this way. He says, oh, it's okay. I've got a plan. She said, Irvin, what are we doing? 50 miles off track. We're going to Dallas. He said, well, we're going to go over to Fort Smith, Arkansas. And she said, why in the heck are we going to go to Fort Smith, Arkansas? He said, well, that's where I did my basic training. And I'm going to show the kids where I did my basic training. We're going to ride around, and they're going to see the mess hall, and they're going to see where I slept in the grounds. And she said, Irvin, I don't think this is a good idea. The kids really don't want to see this. They don't want to see it, and I don't know. Did you call them? Do you have an appointment? He said, no, we don't need an appointment. I was an MP. I went through here. It's okay. Here we go. So we're driving along, right? We drive up to the gate, and the guard standing there with his rifle. Says, yes, sir, how can I help you? Dad says, well, I did my basic training here, years ago, and I just wanted to show my family around. He said, sir, I cannot let you do that. He said, no, it's okay. We're just going to go in. We're just going to go to the mess hall. We're going to go to, it's okay, no problem. He said, sir, I cannot let you do that. Dad said, what in the heck do you have back there that you can't show me? He charges his M16, says, "Sir, turn the vehicle around now." Mom is staring into his head. Maria and I are in the back seat like this. Turn the car around. So we turn the car around and we head toward Dallas. That was the quietest 3-hour drive, I guess. I don't know. 3-hour drive as Mom is staring into his head. Irvin, I knew that was a bad idea. Irvin, I knew that wasn't going to work. So, if ever you want to try to stop him, you have to employ the U.S. military, and they must come armed. So, a toast, right? I brought my tea. A toast to Dad. Thank you for teaching persistence, perseverance, heart, and good judgment.
Having hung around Irv a few years, I believe it probably does take the military and a loaded M16 to slow him down very much at all. So thank you, Eric, for that, sharing those stories. We really appreciate it. Our second presenter this evening is Ralph Behringer. He's a lifelong Louisvillian. He attended Western Kentucky University, and he's worked for Northwestern Mutual Life Insurance Company since 1976. He joined the Louisville Kiwanis Club in 1977 when he met his great friend Irv Stumler, who was then president of the club. They have served together in Kiwanis and the Heiser Hearing Institute boards and many fundraisers and projects through the years. Ralph is married to Kay, and they've raised 2 daughters, Ellen and Laura Beth. So let's show a warm Southern Indiana welcome to Ralph Behringer.
My toasting, so we'll do that here in just a minute. You know, when I was told that I wasn't told. I was asked. Thank you, Irv. But when I was asked, I thought, I'm really in trouble because I thought this was a roast. And there's just nothing. This guy he's terrific. He's perfect. How am I going to roast this guy? I love this guy. But then I found out it was a toast. And there's a ton of material out there to toast Irv Stumler. You know, my initial draft here was, there's a lot to talk about and toast Irv Stumler. And my original drafts, went 20 minutes plus. And I'm told I've only got 7 to 8 minutes. You know, my minister just described Revelation in 25 minutes. And I'm just not that good. But, Irv grew up, as you all only know, this is about the 5th time you all been told this. He was one of 16. He was the 3rd son. And his brother Melvin, who was number 12, said, Irv always seemed to be much older. He's always busy. You know, here he was, 3rd son with these 16 siblings. You know, he was always, early on, he was always mentoring. He was always, his younger brothers and sisters, he was always mentoring. And that's kind of where it started, Irv. You know, you were always, leading by action, leading by the things you did. You know, Irv told me that as children, he wanted to be admired we all want to be admired by our parents. And Irv was in that troop. He also wanted to be admired. He had a wonderful mom and dad. He told me, he went to high school at Flagey, and he might have had the opportunity to back up an individual named Paul Hornan. You might have heard of him. But his father said, what are you going to do? You can't play football. By golly, you've got things to do on the farm. You're the driver. You pick up all your siblings and bring them home, from school. And of course, the bigger question was, who's going to drive the tractor? Who's going to drive the tractor? Who's going to get these kids going and do it? Who's going to do your chores? So, he said of his family, he said, we all grew up together. We were learning to help each other, and we were there for each other. When you think about it, we're thinking about sporting teams at school, high school, and that kind of stuff. Basketball has 5 members. Football has 11 individuals on the field, and Irv Stumler had 16. That's quite a team. So here he was, Irv traveled domestically and internationally in his business, but his service to others and his civic endeavors have been centered locally, and we're the better for it. Some travel across the country to far-off lands, and they go on the mission field, in far-off lands internationally and that kind of thing. But Irv Stumler walked out his front door and looked, and either went 30 minutes right or 30 minutes left. I wanted to make sure I was using the right hand. And there he was. He was on the mission field. He was helping and serving. That's the kind of man he was. Excuse me, Irv. So anyway, a collection of feelings from those he served with. Irv has a unique, valuable skill set for organizing, initiating, and gathering support for a project, and then mapping out a step-by-step process from inception to the finished product. He knows the important details and the order in which they should be addressed. Irv shared with me, he said, when you get into civic work, it multiplies. You meet new people, you work together, and then you get invited to participate in multiple other projects. You have to make hard decisions. You have to move the rock. And Irv, I think, is really good growing up on a farm in southern Indiana moving rocks. He did a great job. He told me in reviewing bids for building projects that the committees had to come to a consensus, saying simply, when he was looking at bids, he said, "This is not my money." And don't you wish we had 535 people in Washington, D.C. that felt the same way? Irv joined Kiwanis in 1970 and was its president by 1978. He's been there actually 53 years, and we're appreciative. And we're glad to lend, the Kiwanians are glad to lend Irv Stumler to you Rotarians for just a little while. That'll be great. That'll be fine. Through Kiwanis, Irv became an ardent advocate for the Louisville Deaf Oral School. That's now known as the Heiser Hearing and Language Academy in Louisville. He was president of the board in 93 and 95, 1993 and 95, and was an essential part of the Capitol campaign and construction of its present campus at First and Kentucky streets from 2000 to 2002. His time and talent and money that were invested at Heiser gave Irv a great amount of satisfaction. He shared with me, he said, to see these preschoolers and kindergartners who began not understanding language at all and then graduate ready for participating with their age group peers in a normal classroom environment was extremely gratifying and miraculous. So that's the kind of guy he is. In '74, he joined the Salvation Army Board. His fellow Kiwanian, Wilson Hatcher, said, "You'll meet a lot of good people and you'll do a lot of good for this community working with the Salvation Army." So he went to work again. He became a member of the Salvation Army Advisory Board in '87, and Andrea Schultz, who's the chairman of that board, just said, "Irv has been a loyal and passionate champion for the Army for many, many years." When the Army was needing to expand facilities, Irv was instrumental in the purchase of the old male high school where the Army currently resides and has their offices. When the Army was needing to expand the facilities, he was just right there with this group. There was a group of 10 that renovated the old male high school before the Salvation Army got into it. Pat Byrne, who was one of the 10, shared, if it wasn't for Irv and Bill Collins, he was the auto dealer, the project probably would not have gotten off the ground. So they were very instrumental even in that group of 10. One memory that Pat shared was there were 1,957 windows that needed to be replaced in that building. And the Historical Society wanted to use wooden windows that were there at the inception of Male High School to preserve the street appearance and maintain authenticity. The issue is that Irv and the group that were there, they wanted to put in thermopane windows because the wooden windows didn't efficiently keep in the warmth in the winter nor expel the heat in the summer. Also the noise from I-65, the wooden windows just really didn't do justice to keep that noise out of there. So Irv suggested that if they wanted to restore the building to its fullest extent with its original materials, then go all the way. If you're going to do it, then make everybody go all the way. And by the way, what you'll have to do is remove I-65. You'll have to remove that expressway if you're going to do that. And so they thought about that. And well, you'll note that I-65 is still there. You know, Pat added, we learned from Irv, he was always prepared, he was always knowledgeable, he was disciplined in his approach with a calm manner that made clear the advantages of his positions. Jerry Finn said we would be hard-pressed to find anyone more dedicated to serving the community above himself than Irv. Irv, I just want to say this. The life insurance industry, the longevity table today goes to 120. This means that you've just barely entered the third quarter. And you may ask, what now? But I know what you're asking. You're saying, what next? Thanks for loving this community in word, mind, and deed. This area needs more Irv Stumlers in it. Thank you, Irv. And we can all raise another toast. Hear, hear. Way to go, Irv.
I wasn't going to bring up Irv's age anytime during the course of this, or the fact that at his age, he can work circles around me and most people half his age. He cracks me up. So thanks, Irv. I would like to, our third group of GOAT sponsors, to acknowledge them. We have Second Baptist Church. We have Brian Stumler Excavating Incorporated. We have Stumler's Catering, Underproduction Multimedia, Waters, Tyler, Hoffman, and Scott, LLC, and Wes Bankel. Again, thanks for your contributions to make this such a wonderful evening. Now, I would like to invite to the stage our state representative and mayoral candidate, Ed Clare, for our presentation. So, Ed.
Thank you, Jerry. Good evening. As always, it is a tremendous honor to have the opportunity to help the Rotary Club of New Albany honor a member of our community who exemplifies the Rotary motto of service above self. I always think a lot about what to say at this event, and what can I say about Irv? A lot. Eric, very much appreciate the context that you provided. I've had some of those experiences, including very recently. I am a little concerned about your reference, though, to the M16, because I'm afraid that you have finally revealed to folks in our community that there may actually be a way to stop Irv Stumler. If Irv appears unexpectedly, you are about to have a very good day or a very bad day. And there isn't much in between. It depends on which side of right you are on. As you know, as we all know, Irv has a thing for steeples. I'm going to share the story because I love telling this story. It's one of my favorite stories about Irv, and no one has told it yet, so I hope I'm not stealing anybody else's thunder. But I love to tell the story of the day that Irv showed up at the Second Baptist Church, the Town Clock Church, and introduced himself to the pastor who was in his study. And after some small talk, the pastor said, "Mr. Stumler, what can I do for you?" And Irv said, "I'm here to help with your capital campaign." And the pastor said, "I'm afraid you're mistaken, sir. We don't have a capital campaign." And Irv famously said, "You do now." And he and Mr. Finn went on to raise well over $1 million, not only to replace the steeple that had been missing for 100 years, but to do a lot of other great work with that church. Now, because of my associating you, Irv, with steeples, I now associate you with my favorite poem, which I am about to read. I have it on my phone, if I can see the screen. So, some of you may be familiar with this poem. If you're not, I hope you enjoy it, and I hope you will associate it with Irv the same way I do. It's by the Welsh poet John Ormond, who lived from 1923 to 1990. The poem is called Cathedral Builders. They climbed on sketchy ladders towards God, with winch and pulley, hoisted hewn rock into heaven, inhabited sky with hammers, defied gravity, defied stone, took God's house to meet him, and came down to their suppers and small beer, every night slept, lay with their smelly wives, quarreled and cuffed the children, lied, spat, sang, were happy or unhappy, and every day took to the ladders again, impeded the rights of another summer's swallows, grew grayer, shakier, became less inclined to fix a neighbor's roof of a fine evening, saw knaves sprout arches, clear stories soar, cursed the loud, fancy glaziers for their luck, somehow escaped the plague, got rheumatism, decided it was time to give it up, to leave the spire to others, stood in the crowd well back from the vestments at the consecration, envied the fat bishop his warm boots, cocked up a squint eye, and said, "I bloody did that." Irv, first of all, no more sketchy ladders. We've been there. But you can see why I associate this poem with Irv, because Irv is, in a very literal sense, a cathedral builder. The churches that he has helped may not be official cathedrals, but they might as well be. And Irv, your good works, your accomplishments, and your legacy will continue to tower over our community for generations to come, both literally and figuratively. I know the steeples are something that we all are aware of and we all see, but one of the other associations in the poem is that I know Irv well enough to know that he frequently stands back and sees things that he has had a hand in, known only to him and to God. And he's not looking for credit. He's just looking to do good work, to put service over self. Irv, you are a true friend to me and to many other people in this room and to our entire community. And because of that, and because of your emphasis of service over self, it is my honor to present you with an award that relatively few people receive each year from Governor Eric Holcomb. It is the Sagamore of the Wabash. Irv, will you join me on stage? Thank you.
Thank you, Ed. Perfect. When the Rotary Club chose Irv to be their honoree this year, and I was tasked with letting him know that, his first response was, "No, I'm not going to do that. There are far more people out there who deserve it more than me." I said, "Well, Irv, why don't you go and talk to Pat about that?" So he came back later and he said, "Okay, I'll do it." So, but I agree, he is indeed a cathedral builder for sure. And our third presenter is going to share a little bit about some of that work. Joe Lowbread is retired. He's married to Gail, and they are members of St. Mary's Church in New Albany. He was the parish council president at the time that Hurricane Ike decided to blow through the steeple there. So, and Irv worked with him on that restoration of the church. So if you would, please welcome Joe Lowbread.
It's interesting. Jerry called me and asked me, give me a bio. I said, I'm not looking for a job. Just say I worked for an insurance company for 30 some odd years, fired twice, quit 3 times in the same company, and married to Gail over here. She's been with me all that time. And I did go to Flagey. Got my notes up here. One of the things I've noticed here is how similar all of the presenters' remarks have been about Irv. And we did not compare notes. We were not told what to say or who's saying what. But listen to the similarities. Irv Stumler is an enigma. You really can't understand it all. You just have to experience it. He shows up, things happen. He approached me from the back of St. Mary's Church. I had noticed that he and Pat were speaking. After they spoke, he approached me. He said, I understand that there's a renovation project on the steeple and the outside of the church. I said, yes, there is. And I'll never forget it. Herb stood there and kind of looked down. He says, can I help? Can I help? Very humbly he said that. There's a Swiss psychologist, Carl Jung, coined a term in the 1950s called synchronicity. He described it as a seemingly coincidental yet meaningful events in an external world that does not become obvious. Synchronicity has become an important part of my life. I try to notice synchronicity. You know, when the right thing happens, the right people show up, something happens, and you say, wow, you know, how did that happen? And how is that good? You know, why is that good? Some people might recognize that as grace. You know, sometimes we're just graced with the right things. I know Pat was instrumental in renovation of the interior of the church. I was not. But I became parish council president, and I got into the fundraising part of the trying to save the steeple and do some renovation on the outside of the church. It was falling apart at that time. That steeple was built in 1860s. I think it was 1864. Civil War time, that steeple was put up. It was German artisans, craftsmen. You've seen stories and pictures of carts and mules hauling big timbers up to the top of that steeple. And I just can imagine, you know, the cathedral builders. There were some cathedral builders that built that church and that steeple in particularly. It's 165 feet tall, probably the tallest building in New Albany now. Not sure. Through the years, it had been shored up, stitched up, patched up. You get up in there and there's all kinds of different nails and screws and metals and trying to hold these timbers together and trying to give it some structure. The parish council was worried that it was going to fall. The archdiocese was worried that it was going to fall. Father Bill Ernst over here, he was worried that it was going to fall. We needed to do something. Let me read. So we got an engineering firm. We said, what is it going to take to renovate? We didn't say rebuild. What's it going to take to renovate that steeple? As presented by, I got it written down, Timmerman, what's his name? Larry Timmerman. He presented this. This is my file. I've got Irv's file when I started putting this together. It's about that thick. Irv's file, my file. Here's what the engineer said. It is my opinion this steeple has experienced so many failed, deteriorated members and connection that there is no longer any redundancy in the structure system, nor is there any reasonable safety factor remaining to accommodate the extremely high wind loads. The steeple appears to be in good enough condition to withstand ordinary day-to-day loading, but it is questionable whether it could resist, here, a 90-mile-per-hour wind, which statistically occurs once every 50 years. Now that steeple had been standing straight for 150 years. All right? 1864. Without significant damage or collapse. Go ahead. And it went on. So, we had an immediate problem. I think we had been recommended by the archdiocese, take it down, cap it. That wasn't going to work. That report I read to you was written in November 12th, 2007. Remember that, November 12th, 2007. We had begun raising money in the parish. We had $250,000 pledged over a 3-year period. That engineering report that I just read part of said to renovate the steeple would be $450,000 to $500,000 to do it right. To do the steeple on the outside of the church, $1.4 million. Well, we had $250,000. In stepped synchronicity again. When this enigma Irv said, "Can I help?" Again, I go back to Jung. He said, "Synchronicity is ever-present reality for those who have eyes to see." Thus began a series of events. Remember we said when Irv shows up, things happen? First, we requested a grant from the Horseshoe Foundation. We had $250,000. We said if we could get $750,000 from them, we could put together $1 million and we could just repair the steeple, get it standing good, do the outside of the church. Very graciously, Horseshoe gave us $200,000. We asked for $750,000. They gave us $200,000. We were happy. It was $100,000 a year for 2 years, specifically set to work on the steeple. So, Irv started making contacts. He called the right people, put together contracts, got bids. He did everything behind the scenes. I wasn't involved in much of it. As a parish council president, he kept me respectfully informed. And I asked no questions. Gave no advice. I do not know. Okay. One of the days, we were on a task together. And like someone said, if he calls you and wants you to go someplace, there's something to get done. He pulled some people together. We were on a task someplace. And I mentioned to him, I said, all this thing's going on behind the scenes and all this that's happening. And then I said, man, I'm amazed. I never will forget it. We're in that old car you had. It was that foreign car. And I was on the passenger side. Irv was driving, like he said. If Irv drives, spend the day with him. And I was complimenting him. I said, I'm just amazed. Didn't want him to quit. I'm just amazed. And he said these words, matter-of-factly. He said, I know how to get a tractor out of the ditch. Now, you've heard other people talk about his life up here, and he was a tractor driver. And I know he was a truck driver. And that's only the self-referral phrase working with him over a year that I ever heard him say about himself. Only thing he ever said, I know how, matter of fact, I know how to get a tractor out of a ditch. So I kept my mouth shut. Here's what I recognized about him during this time. He was kind, he was compassionate, he was equanimous, and he was wise. He knew when to push, he knew when to pull, and he knew when to be quiet. He knew when to pull the triggers in the right places. And that he could get the tractor out of the ditch when we had contract problems and things, and he could keep it moving. Both of the previous speakers have spoke about his tenacity on that. But never think his tenacity was rough, gruff, mean, posing. He just got the right people together and kept things moving. Remember that report I read was November 2007. Now it's 2008, September 4th, 2008. So he had been working on this for a year, just about a year. And it was getting contracts and bids and people, putting it all together. And the plan was to stabilize the existing steeple and then see if it'll last another 50 years. That was our goal. Didn't have money. On Sunday, September 14th, 2008, myself and a couple of friends had ridden our bicycles from Corden, Indiana, down to, I always forget the name of that town. I can roll it. New Amsterdam, to New Amsterdam. We were on the river, and we were watching water, eating a snack. There's three of us, and just enjoying the bike ride. And I noticed the swells started going like this. I even thought they were going backwards, but the swells were going like this. The Ohio River doesn't have waves in it down there in New Amsterdam. And that. Wind started blowing. And I said to my friends, I said, we need to get back to the trucks. I didn't want to alarm them too much. As we started back, the winds come harder. I remember tree limbs falling, tin blowing across the road. The wind was at our backs, heading back to Corden, and we really, truly flew over the swells. You ride up them, and then you go down. Well, we rode up them, wasn't hard with the wind, and then we didn't land until way over here. The phone was ringing. Mine and my friend Mike's was ringing off the wall. Mike said, "My wife says our house is blowing away." I said, "Mike, hang up. You're going to die out here." I didn't answer the phone. Got back to the truck. I saw all these calls were coming from St. Mary's. This was Sunday afternoon by now. Went down to St. Mary's and looked up, and with just an amazement, that steeple was like this. Yeah, it was like that. If it failed, take down all the power lines in Spring and 8th Street, block traffic for a long time, probably destroy the church. And my understanding is that there was a service going on when that happened, a Hispanic service going on at that time. I'm not sure of that, but I've been told that. That steeple didn't fall. Tractor was in the ditch. I'm standing there on Sunday, looking up, and I said, "Well, tractor's in the ditch." What did I do? I called Irv. Irv and Pat were on vacation down in Virginia Beach. He said, "I'll call you back." Wasn't long. He called me back. He said, Jim Paget says it's too windy to put cranes on now, but if it's still standing, he'll go by Monday. By the time I got down there Monday morning, two big old cranes hooked on that steeple. Weren't sure if it would hold it or not. We didn't know how much it weighed. Jim said, "I'm not sure it'll hold it." As we were standing there looking up, listen, I'm telling the story. Don't let the facts get in the way, right? This is my memory of the story. I think Jim was there. There was a guy over here named Frank Delbridge, if I'm pronouncing it right. Frank Delbridge, hold your hand up. He's important. Frank, yeah. Don. Okay, everybody is. No, okay. Is Frank Delbridge in the house? Where? Okay. Frank stepped back there. I was thinking, I thought that was Frank. I said, "Man, you've aged." And, you have too. That was myself, Irv, kind of this order. Myself, Irv, Paget, Frank. We looked up there at that steeple, and Frank said, "There's only one beam holding that steeple up now," because he'd been up in there working, and he had climbed up to take a peek. He says, "There's one beam up there holding that thing." And he says, "If I had a chainsaw, I could go up there and cut that baby loose." And, Irv and I and everybody kind of looked at each other, and we all nodded. Up goes Frank. Boom. In the distance, we heard the chainsaw. Baby was running. It didn't take him long. It stopped. And we're all sitting there with this thing here, going, what's going to happen now? What's going to happen to this steeple? We weren't sure the cranes would hold it. That's what Jim said. It did hold it. Wasn't a second, that thing swifted over to the side, and it swayed, and it swayed, and those cranes went like this. And Jim Pageant neatly, his crew took it over, set it on a flatbed truck, and hauled it to his yard. Not his home yard, but where he spends all his time, his yard. Took it to the yard. We didn't get any permissions, no engineers. Didn't talk to the city, didn't talk to anybody. We just nodded. Because we knew what was going to happen if we waited a day. That thing would be 3 months coming down. About an hour and a half, that baby was on the ground. Toted away. Synchronicity, I mean, this is how these things happen. Hurricane Ike was that once in 50-year 90-mile-per-hour wind that came through here that Sunday. Keep me on track here. There was still a decision to replace or cap the roof. Archdiocese was kind of in favor of capping the roof. But we were pretty sure that we were going to have insurance money come in here. And we did. But we had to keep the tractor moving. Irv made the contacts, made the contacts, you know Irv's an attorney, licensed attorney? I didn't know that until a couple weeks ago. I was wondering where in the hell these contracts are coming from. I didn't ask. I just wondered. I wasn't going to ask. But I just wondered, where are these contracts coming from? He made all the phone calls, got the key people in Archdiocese of Indianapolis down. We needed to get them on our side. Irv took him on, he had me along that day. We took him on a tour, took him out to eat. He showed him all the bids and however, all ducks in a row. All we need to do is get this contract signed. The guy said, I'll let you know. Went back to Indianapolis. Irv called me one day right after that. Not right after. It was a long time after that. He says, we're going to go to Indianapolis to talk about the steeple. These are the qualities you've heard these other people talk about. We're going to go to Indianapolis to talk about the steeple. Want to ride along? Yes. Anytime he asked me, yes. On the way up, I said, what time's our appointment? He said, we don't have one. I said, oh. We got up there. The guy that we needed to see, we found his office. I didn't know where the building was. We found his office, and we could peek around the corner, and we could see him sitting in there. His secretary said, what time's your appointment? We don't have one. She saw that we saw that he was sitting in there with nobody in there. We eventually, just a few minutes later, we got escorted in. He knew Irv. He knew what he wanted. Irv had written, called, emailed, text. We needed to get the tractor moving. Like Eric said, there's no roadblocks. There's no problem here in that with Irv. I've been in sales and marketing training most all my adult life. We have a few words, brief words, little niceties. Irv reached in his briefcase, his little thing, he pulled it out. He said, we need to get this contract signed so we can move on. And in sales, you learn a lot of times when to shut up. When you close, you just shut up, right? You close, you shut up. It seemed like an hour, but probably 2 or 3 minutes. The pen was with the contract. He picked it up and signed it. We said, thanks. The tractor was moving. Again, we were on the way. Insurance money kicked in. We were able to return $100,000, or not. We didn't need $100,000 that Horseshoe Foundation was going to give us, and they used that money with other charities. So that worked out well. One of the things a couple things I want to say just directly to Irv. When Irv walked down that aisle in the church and said humbly, "Can I help?" That was undeserved grace for me at that time. I had no skills to move that thing forward any farther. Irv had no desire to be in the spotlight. That's been said. He had no desire to be in the spotlight. He kept the project moving. His ego was always in check. He never talked about himself. He was kind, all the people we dealt with. He had kindness, compassion for the other person's point of view. He listened well. He never raised his voice. He knew when to push and he knew when to pull. Irv, when I was asked to say a few words, when you asked me to say a few words, I had no hesitation. I said yes right away. You know, none of that, oh, why me, being humble, I don't want to get in front of people. None of that. When you asked, I jumped at the opportunity to say these things out loud. The parish doesn't know a lot about Irv's work in the, and you know, the Hispanic community is very involved in our church now. The church was a German church, and then when Holy Trinity burned in December 29th, 1975, the Irish came over. You all been around for a while, you knew how that went. Came over. And now the Hispanic community, most of the Catholic Hispanics in Floyd County come to that church, and they're welcome there. We have another community to merge into that church. Most of the people don't know what Irv did in that church because he never blew his horn. There was never anything said about it. There was never a ceremony. There was never a presentation. He didn't want that. But I know what you did, Irv, and I want these people here to know what you did. You made a difference, and you matter. Thank you, Irv.
Thanks, Joe. I just wanted to share a few words about how I got involved with Irv Stumler. And actually, I blame our late good friend, Mark Seabrook, who had a love-hate relationship with historical things in the community. And he was always like, why do we wait till things are falling down to do something about it? But his big issue was, he said, the Second Baptist Church, we affectionately call the Town Clock Church, is one of the most historically important buildings in the metro area, and something needs to be done about it. Now, one nice fall afternoon, I'm at a street festival, and I see Irv standing there, and he's drinking a beer, chatting with folks, like, you know, politicking like he does so well. And I thought, you know what? If there's somebody that can make that happen, it would be Irv Stumler. So I went up to him and said, Irv, if I raise the money, will you oversee the restoration of the Town Clock Church? That whole process, because I know nothing about that. And I knew Irv knew how to take care of steeples. And one of the dreams was to put that steeple back on that beautiful church like it was when it was built in 1852. So Irv jokingly says, Jerry raises the money and I spend it. But he spends it so well. We have done somewhere between $2 and $3 million worth of work on that church. And we have raised $1.2 million thanks to an incredibly generous community. And I've always said, Irv can get more done on a dime than most people can get done on a dollar. We give tours in the church now. Actually, Irv, he unlocks the door if we need him, but he's not into the tour thing. But we have over 1,000 students and adults who come through each year. And on those Underground Railroad tours, I occasionally enact the pastor who was there at the time the church was dedicated in 1852, Reverend John Guest Atterbury. And I quote from a theologian, Maria Harris, in my sermon to my congregants. And I say this: Scripture tells us it's better to light a candle than curse the darkness. But maybe it's time to curse that darkness. Reverend Atterbury was talking about the darkness of slavery and the scourge that was on our nation. Now, clearly, Irv is an illuminator where there is darkness, but he sure is not afraid to curse it if it needs a good cussing as well. Irv calls it poking the bear. And he does not care who the bear might happen to be: politician, church administrator, board member, me, it doesn't matter. So I can't tell you how many times when I was with the Caesars Foundation, Irv would come up at the YMCA, walk in my office and say, "Come on, Jerry, it's time to poke the bear." Now, I usually had a pretty good idea who that bear was, but you never knew for sure. But without a doubt, when I see that building, every time I drive across the bridge, the lights on the steeple and stuff, that's your legacy. That is your legacy. That is amazing. Yeah. And as Joe said, I am in awe at the things that he did. I can't tell you the relationship that he has with so many people, whether it be Paget and Don or D.M. Masonry and Frank and his family and stuff. Things just happen when Irv gets involved. And certainly one of the greatest grace moments of my life is working on this project with Irv Stumler. So thank you, Irv, for that opportunity and for the amazing work that you have done. Nobody will ever know the amount of time and energy that you put into making that happen, because God knows I don't even know, and I probably know as much as most. Maybe Pat does. Yeah, Pat knows. So, okay, we have another presentation. I would like to invite Steve Kiger, who is our Rotary Foundation representative, for the Paul Harris presentation.
Thanks, Jerry. Thank you, Jerry. Irv, if you would mind joining me here. It's my privilege to represent the Rotary Club of New Albany in presenting this next recognition to Irv and to tell you a little bit about the recognition itself. The Paul Harris Fellow Recognition acknowledges individuals who contribute or who have contributions made in their name of $1,000 to the Rotary Foundation. Rotary established the recognition in 1957 to encourage and show appreciation for substantial contributions to what was then the Foundation's only program, the Rotary Foundation Fellowships for Advanced Study, the precursor to the Ambassadorial Scholarships, which today provides awards for up to 50 fellowships for master's degrees and up to 80 fellowships for certificate studies at premier universities around the world for the study of peace development and conflict resolution. Additionally, through 46,000 plus clubs scattered around the world, Rotarians through our Rotary International Foundation focus on providing clean water, supporting education, saving mothers and children, growing local economies, protecting the environment, fighting disease, and we're just this close to eradicating polio in the world. The Rotary Club of New Albany has a tradition of supporting the foundation and these great efforts that go on all the time around the world. We are honoring Irv tonight as a part of that. Our honoree, already a distinguished Rotarian, doesn't need to be made a Paul Harris Fellow. Tonight, Irv, I'm so privileged to be able to again represent the club and the community and to present to you our own Irv Stumler, a Paul Harris Fellow +1. And to thank you, Irv, for your inspiration and your leadership in our community. Thank you so much, Irv. Blessings to you.
So, we said this was our Rotary Community Toast, so now it is time for the official Community Toast. And I would like to invite Senior Judge J. Terrence Cody, who is our 2022 honoree, to come to the stage, which is part of our tradition, and to present our official Community Toast, along with our presenting sponsors. So I would like to also invite Don Felt, representing Paget, one of our community sponsors, and Rick Stumler from Insulated Roofing Contractors, who is also a presenting sponsor as well.
Oh, you don't know how long I've been waiting for this, Irv. No comment. I think it would be very appropriate. First, I know there are a number of previous honorees here tonight, and I would like to ask them to stand up and be recognized. Please. Eric, I don't think I've ever met you before, but you were born in 1968? Yes. Okay. Your Uncle Steve and I graduated from Providence in 1967. I didn't meet Irv until many years later. Irv, I don't know what you're going to say, but we have a table here of members of the Town Clock Church, the Second Baptist Church, who are here tonight. Please stand. The Second Baptist Church is at Main and 3rd Street. I grew up at 3rd and Spring Street. I looked at your church the entire time that I went through birth, through grade school, through high school, and what has been done through Jerry and Irv's efforts and others over the past few years is just unbelievable. It's one of the most important buildings in the city of New Albany, and I am so glad it has been restored to its grandeur. Sister Geneva, if there is anything said tonight that's off color, I apologize in advance. It will not be from me. Now, Irv, I got a phone call today. Denny Andrus called me today, and he sends his regrets that he could not be here tonight, but he had to move some junk vehicles from New Albany out here to Floyd's Knobs. That's a private joke between Irv and me. Gentlemen, it's time to raise glasses here. So everyone, please raise your glasses so we can toast a person who embodies the Rotary spirit and motto of service above self. Irv is a model of a servant leader, and he has become a leader in his adopted community of New Albany since he married Patricia Jenks Least. join me in toasting our distinguished 2023 Rotary Community Toast honoree, Irv Stumler. Hear, hear.
Okay, now it's time for comments from our honoree, Irvin H. Stumler. Probably the thing he hates more than anything.
It's quite a night. It really is. But Jerry, you thought you knew. Johnny recorded this song. It's a South American folk song, and he did that in 1956. In 1957, I started unloading the banana boats that he loaded down in South America. Now, this is not a very long story, but I found out from one of my military police cohorts that we could get our PT exercise and make some good money by going down to the docks on Monday morning and volunteer to work on the crew to unload banana boats. And we did that. And almost every Monday and maybe half a Tuesday, we could get a job unloading banana boats. And I made more money there in those day and a half a week than the Army paid me for the whole month. And I got my exercise. Some of those bananas, he talks about 6 foot, 8 foot bunch. The 8 foot bunch could weigh up to 125 pounds. And the reason we got on is because the regular longshoremen, it was a little heavy work for them. So they'd pass it up and get an easier job. But anyway, I just wanted you to know that. You thought you knew everything, but you don't. Okay, that's enough of that. You talk about the cathedral builders. There's 4 guys in this room who are the official cathedral builders. Would you stand up? Don, Frank, Dan, Paul Davis. Where are you? Don was a project manager for Paget on both projects, and he really put some effort into it. He saved us. The engineers said we would have to take half of the roof off of the Town Clock Church to put the superstructure in so that we could put that steeple up, because the codes had changed a little since 1853 to 100 and some years later. So Don gave us a bid to take the roof off and do it the way the engineers said we should do it, and the price was just ridiculous. So Don says, I think I could do the same thing and cost a lot less money. So he had the metal, and believe me, there's tons of metal up there. Do you know how many tons it is? Well, it's several loads. But anyway, he took that down through we took the cap off the steeple, so we had about a 6-foot opening. He put those big beams down that opening for a week, and bolted them all together, and here was a superstructure ready to put steeple on. So Don, you saved us at least $100,000 right there. That's not the only thing he did. He was always on the job and ready to do the job better, and he was out thinking the engineers, believe me. Paul Davis, where are you? You still standing? Yeah, you're still standing. Paul, he was the project manager for Able Construction, and there was some controversy when he started taking the bricks down into the substructure, and he said, these bricks really aren't solid enough. We're going to have to go farther down. And the engineer said, no, that's enough. That'll work. Paul said, I'm not going to do it that way. So he went to his office, to the president of the company, and he says, we can't do it that way. That's not going to be a safe building, a safe steeple on there. So they finally agreed with him, and they put a big ring of concrete and steel all the way around to set steeple on. Thank you, Paul. The steeple will be there forever, I think. And the other cathedral builders are Frank and Dan Delbridge. Now, Frank, I've never met a guy quite like you. We gave him the architect's drawings and said, here's what we need to do. That's what the architect says we need to do. So Frank looked at it. He says, that's going to cost you a lot of money. I said, okay, how would you do it to get the same result without going through all those steps that they've told you to do? And he studied it a while, and he says, I can do it. So I said, well, tell me how you're going to do it and how much you're going to charge. So he got into it, and they did it. They did the St. Mary's reconstruction of the exterior, cleaned it, painted, put shamrock. Anybody know what shamrock is? It's not a what should I say? It's not Irish. Shamrock is concrete to look. It is masonry put over brick to look like concrete. It's a sham rock. Anyway, and Dan, his son, was right there with him all the time. Did a great job. So thank you, Cathedral Builders. I've prepared a list here, what I call life mentors. And it starts out with my parents. Rosalina Cutter Stumler. Her motto was, be thankful, don't complain. Elmer Stumler, my dad, work hard, always do your best. Kenny Stumler, my brother, he was a year older than me. You can do it. Let's try it. Sister De La Rosa, a teacher at St. John's Church. You should consider being a priest. Father Vore, professor at Bellarmine, always do the right thing. Tom Cutter. Now, Tom Cutter and Gerald Huber and I are almost all the same age, and we're all first cousins. And I was the best man in Tom's wedding when he married Mary Frances. And I think his motto would be, the best description would be, we can do that. And he did. He built a huge woodworking complex, doing everything you can do with wood. Gerald Huber, cousin, look what we can do together. Just look around here at this oasis that Gerald and his family have built. It is totally amazing. If you've been out here over the past month, it's like ants here. And I used to work for the Armored Car Company. I think he needs an armored car. Gerald also, Eric mentioned going to Fort Chaffee. When I was at Fort Chaffee, after I finished basic training, I called Gerald one day and we were talking about, well, how's it going for you? And I said, well, I've finished my 6 weeks of basic. Now I've got another 6 week of advanced basic. And I said, I'm kind of stuck here on base. I don't have a car. He said, well, that's too bad. It's only 6 weeks. 2 days later, the sergeant says, Stumler, you got a phone call. I go to the phone, and Gerald says, I'm here with your car. He drove my car to Fort Chaffee. We had a couple beers that night, and he got on a Greyhound bus the next morning and came home. What a friend. Bill Beach, a friend, and I was also best man in his wedding. And his motto was, I didn't know it couldn't be done. Walt Flammer, regional manager, Pinkerton Detective Agency. Tell it like it is. Wilson Hatcher, somebody mentioned Wilson's name. He was in the Kiwanis Club, and he was a good guy. He's a TV broadcaster. He says, sometimes you should toot your own horn. Okay, I haven't done much of that. But so, Ed Schumann, president of Schumann Printing, you can admit that you don't know. Gene Hall, Texaco trainer, make the customer feel he is worthy of service. Jim Meyer, president of Armored Car Company, all of this money belongs to somebody else. Buddy Cockrell, a friend and a roofer up in Virginia, he said, we are better than they are. John Williams, Dow Corning Silicone. You guys, Rick and the crowd here at Insulated Roofing have bought a little bit of Dow Corning Silicones. And John Williams used to say, our roof warranty is better than theirs. Mark Seabrook, friend, you know Mark could tell stories. He said, just tell them a good story. Linda Sturgeon Stumler, wife, do you remember where your home is? Her dad, Al Sturgeon, he says, you can try, but you can't do it all. Pat Lee Stumler, when are you going to stay home? We got things to do here. And then I get another call, like Father Tom Merrill, who was the previous pastor at St. Mary's. He said, Irv, I need help. Can you bring your truck? That's all I got. Thank you all for coming. Hope you enjoyed. Have a safe trip home. Remember, these roads are not straight.
A few more things before I officially dismiss you, because remember, I have to ring the bell, okay? You got an idea of the type of people that Irv hangs out with and why he gets the things done that he does. One of the reasons I like Irv so much, they're not rules. They're just guidelines, you know? So, Irv now joins a long list of community honorees that began 29 years ago. Recently, at one of our board meetings, it was pointed out that the Friends of the Town Clock Church actually has 5 honorees, previous honorees that are members of that board. So I'm guessing that we probably have the highest percentage of any board in the city of New Albany of Rotary Toast honorees. So, and I know Judge Cody, Senior Judge Cody, asked previous honorees to stand up. Thank you all for being here tonight. It's great to recognize you. And again, thanks to our presenting sponsors and our gold sponsors who are listed in your program books. Please take those home. I've tried to capture some of the story of Irv Stumler. I did not know about the banana boats, that's for sure. But I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised. There is very little that Irv Stumler has not done in his lifetime. So the support that our sponsors allow us to do the good works, and we're really excited to be able to continue to do well. We'll be able to pay DM Masonry for the painting work that's going on right now at the church. So thank you all for being here, for your presence to honor Irv and to help us continue to do the good work that happens in our community. Just a reminder, presenters and family members, we would like to get pictures of you afterwards here with Irv, so don't run off. And just thanks for being here to celebrate the wonderful gift that Irv Stumler is to our community. So stay safe and good night. And
Very good. Perfect.
Such an honor.
That's great.
Okay, I am.
A little stretched, but okay.